microphone down.
I was gonna say.
Well, I can talk loud.
So that's all right, but I'm gonna, you're the primary speaker today, so I'm gonna do that. Okay.
So yeah, so obviously it was 9.5 weeks that I was there. I was there from May 12th to July 18th was the day that I came back. So it was a lot of stuff. I had 15 hours that I had to travel to get there because we had to do a layover because there's no direct flights to Cyprus.
15 hours.
So I had to go from Philly to Heathrow and then to Larnaca, which is like the only airport that they have in Nicosia. Well, not Nicosia, in Cyprus.
How many were traveling with you that 15 hours?
There was, well, I'll get to that soon because I have it in the slide.
No questions allowed right now.
Well, I was just thinking about you rumbling around in different airports. I hope you
Yeah.
weren't alone.
No, I had 3 other people with me. But, so basic thing, most people don't know where Cyprus is located. So I have it here, it's not fully showing, on the thing, but if it'll let me. If you see where Turkey is, because right now I can't use the mouse because it's not letting me, but you see where Turkey is up above, and then of course Syria to the side, like Near East. It's that island right in the middle.
Tiny little.
That tiny little thing, it is the size, well, less than the size of New Jersey, if that gives you perspective. And they always joke, it's in the armpit of the Mediterranean. So, you know, so there was that. And also, obviously, it's not showing right now, but I can give like a basic outline. You might be able to probably see it better online, but there's a very faint white line, dotted line that goes right here because it's a divided country.
Oh.
So that is the borders between what is the north of Cyprus and what is the south of Cyprus. So these are who I went over with. Person all the way over to the left is Nick, and of course me, and Krista, and then Cole. So all 4 of us went over together. There was a 5th person who also came, but he came a couple days later because he actually was graduating at that time, and he just was coming over for the first 5 weeks to get his last few bits of credits to basically fully graduate. So, of course, for the first 3 days, we had recovery time because we had 15 hours of travel, so Dr. Gaber, our professor, said, you need time because you're gonna get jet lagged badly. So during this week, we just kind of mostly explored Nicosia, which is where we were staying, which is the capital of Cyprus. So this is my room where I was staying. I got a single because there's only 2 girls and there was 3 guys, so me and Krista each got a single. So this is my room in Cary, which is the Cyprus American Archaeological Research Institute. That is what it stands for. But basically it has a gigantic library attached to it that people could do research for. And most people that were staying there were graduate students who were over in Cyprus going on digs and stuff. So that was kind of the basics of it. One of the places we went to was Eleftheria Square, or in English, it's Liberty or Freedom Square. It used to be a garden. Now it is not, as you can tell. It is just pure concrete because an architect decided to make it pure concrete. And Dr. Gaber was really angry about that. I could understand why. It's usually 100 degrees or more there. No one's sitting there. So, because those pill-looking things are the seats. So, and they're pure concrete as well. So they would be scorching hot during the day. So that's why no one sits there during the day, they only sit there during the nighttime. And then, so in the previous one, there was a slight picture of it, but they had Venetian walls surrounding the entirety of the capital. And Venetian walls are from around the 1400s to 1500s, because that's when the Venetians ruled. But one thing, it's not fully showing on here, but you can kind of see a star shape out of that. That is the old walls. It is 11 star like shape on it. And right in the middle of it, if you see where there is the Greek name of a like monastery or church, right below that is the buffer zone or the dividing line for the entire capital. And so this is the only capital in the EU that is still divided. The last one that was divided was Berlin in World War II after that. So this is the last one, and it was divided in 1974. I was there for its 50th anniversary almost. Glad I wasn't there because I would have woken up at 5:30 in the morning on July 20th to air raid sirens to commemorate when the Turks invaded. So that was a nice thing to miss. But on the left, that's a gate. They had a lot of them. That's just one of them. There's like, I think 3 left out of all of them. But those were the things that the star points went to for the old walls. And of course, we also went to the old city in Leisure Street. So the old city, because it's the old city of Nicosia, and Leisure Street is the bottom right-hand photo where you see like the shade sheets over top of it. That's what they're known for. The entire way down, you see the shade sheets and stuff. But on the ground, you can see it more in the left photo. There are red marks on the ground. That is leading you to the north side. Because if you get lost in the south, you follow the red things to the north. In the north, you follow the blue dashed lines to go to the south. Because if you go down Leisure Street the full way, you hit the checkpoint they have to go through to get to the north. Because you have to show your passport every time you go across. So there's that. And of course, we went to Chaco's Tower, which is like the observation deck area from Nicosia, to see the entirety of Nicosia. And you can't fully see it because I didn't fully blow it up, but the little tiny dot that's in the middle of the right photo on the mountains, that is the Turkish flag. They put the Turkish flag in rocks on the mountain so that people would see it no matter what, because that is the mountains of the north. So you would see it anywhere you are in Nicosia if you are looking to the north. It's gigantic, and during the night it glows, so you can also see it during the night, because basically they're kind of putting it in the face of all the south side, basically being like, this is our territory, not yours. So there's that. And then this is actually over on the north side. We went over to the north side for a little bit. This is Buyukan. These are pictures from Google because I somehow can't find the photos that I took of the place in my phone. So these are just from Google to show you what it looks like. But this is in northern Nicosia. And in it, there's a restaurant, and also it's a place where if you see all the little archways and stuff, that area is where all different handicraft and art places are, basically. Where I got my earrings from, because I lost an earring while going over to Cyprus, so that was fun as well. But we also went to one of the museums that are in Nicosia, which is the Leventis Municipal Museum. And so on the left, that is a photo of me looking down at the floor where there's glass, and they made a recreation of what a typical village house flooring would look like, which is basically just stones. That's it. And then on the right, I thought this was cool, and I pointed it out, and then Dr. Eber said, well, yeah, of course they would have that back then even. That's a strainer. So that's a strainer from the Cypro-Archaic period, which is 750 to 480 BCE. BC? Yeah, so very, very, very old. And then this is like the place in Nicosia, which is the Cyprus Museum. It has basically all the stuff that you could want to find from many different places. They have stuff from my professor's dig site, stuff like that. We went there at the end to hand stuff over to them to put in their storage room. But on the left, that little thing, this is also a statue that was found in a birthing house. So it's known as the Lemba Lady, and it's from the Chalcolithic or Copper Age, so even older than the strainer. It's 3,900 to 2,500 BCE. That is from around the time that it would have been. And that is like the thing to represent what a lot of people consider Cyprus's mother goddess, because they worshipped a goddess instead of like Jesus or something like that. Especially back then, they would worship the mother goddess who basically did everything. And then of course on the right, these are some of the statues from Aya Irene, which is a cult site. There's hundreds of them. There's even more in the Swedish museum called the Medelhavsmuseet. I had to do a research paper I did a research paper on that, so I had to look at these statues a lot. But these are votive offerings, so basically people went to the cult site and gave a statue of either themselves or somebody to like the mother goddess, kind of whoever they're worshiping, basically being like, this is to you from me, type of thing. Then we went to also CVAR for a little tour, which this is where I interned. This photo is a painting of one of their like famous tragedies that they had. This is, let me make sure I say it right. Caterina Cornaro, who was from Venice. She's the last queen of Cyprus. She married into royalty for her husband. Her husband then died a year after she came to Cyprus. Her newborn then died 6 months after that. And then she was forced off the throne by the Venetians, who, this is what it's depicting. She's being forced to give up the crown. And then she had to go back to Venice, where she mysteriously died. So that's her story. But of course, obviously, first 5 weeks, we were doing a CVAR internship. So we did a lot of stuff that's known as background work. But one thing I'll point out, the picture on the left, that is at the end of Ermou Street, which is where CVAR is at, which that is the buffer zone. It is gated off and protected, and you could get shot if you go in there, because UN are in there all the time. But as you can see, there is the Greek and Cyprus flag on this side, and then if you look past the gate, there's the Turkish flag. So yeah, so that's kind of how it is. But basically the buffer zone is kind of a dead zone now. A lot of places are destroyed there, everything like that. People had to abandon homes, all that stuff after the invasion. But this is basically their way of keeping the peace. So the UN made the buffer zone, which is where we had to pass by every single day. But what we did in our internship was we did a lot of library background stuff. So we had to collect donations of books that were given to them. So that will be in a slide like two slides from now. But we also had to categorize the books, count the books, catalog them into their system, accession them into their system, and also shelve them. And then of course, this is me at the top right-hand corner. I was standing on a chair because I was too short to reach the top of the shelf, but because I work in a library, I was shelf reading. So I was making sure that all the books were in order. And so I did the entire room that I was in for the last 2 days. But this is all of us together. The one in the middle is James, who came in later. And only stayed for the internship, and the person who is in the middle between me and Krista is Stella, who was our boss. And so she was fun to have. She was super nice and cool. She gave us gifts at the end. We're like, stop it.
So she's from there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this is the place that we went to collect the books. We went up into the mountains one day, into Platris, and we got to see the mountains for the first time, because this is like the first or second week that we were there, we got to go up to the mountains. And in the right-hand one, it's a little, like, you can't fully see it, but that is the, like, mansion that we went to get the books from. So that was a fun thing. We got to go into like an 1800s mansion that they had there, and it was a lot cooler up here because in the mountains, it's usually 10 degrees cooler than what it is down in the plains where we were staying in like Nicosia and stuff. So it could be 90 degrees here, but it feels a lot better than 100+ degrees down in the plains, with no shade at all. But then of course, during our entire time, we did field trips. So this is just for the first 5 weeks, because these were the weekend, and then after our internship was done, then we went throughout the entire week to different places. But here's where I'm gonna go fast, because there's a lot of stuff. We went to this is on a Friday. We just went to this because she is a Fulbright scholar, so she was there for her, I forget if it was her master's or PhD, but this was her like kind of final project type of thing where she had to put on an exhibition because she was an art major. But she used these little bags on the right, which were made out of rocks and pigments that she found from rocks around the island to create art. So on the left, that is a piece of art that she created using pigments from the earth, basically. So that was fun to see. And then the next day we did International Museum Day, which is where, at least in the EU, they do it. They have an International Museum Day where all museums are free, and especially in Cyprus, they do a lot of events and stuff at different things, at different museums. So for us, because we were working with CVAR, we did a walk. And so the walk was very long. I got heat exhaustion like right away, so I did not walk. So that's why there's that ice cream there, because I stopped halfway through to have food and ice cream at the shop. That was on Leisure Street. And then the rest of it, because there was 3 of us who left because one of us wasn't, like, I wasn't feeling good. The other person had a headache at that point, and then another person's like, I need to take a break. So we all went and said, okay. So we went, ate ice cream and ate food, and then we met up with the other 2 at the end in the place called Home for Cooperation, which is in the buffer zone. So we actually were in the buffer zone, but it's like a restaurant area thing where people from both sides can come in and just mingle, basically. So, and on the right, that's like a mural thing that we saw on our walk there around. So it's based around Nicosia. And then the first place that we went to, like, actual, like, archaeological place was Colossi Castle, which is, as you can see on the left, is just a keep now. There's really nothing left of the castle part of it, but it used to be a former Crusader stronghold, so there were icons and stuff like that in there that have been since defaced because of the Turks invading and stuff. But during the Turkish invasion, people from Cyprus used the stronghold to be safe from the bombs that were going off all around the island. Because on top of this, the roof where we are standing, all of us standing and taking a photo, there used to be a UNESCO symbol on there. It's no longer there anymore, but yeah. So we went up there. And then we also went to Kurion, which is a very big site, that same day. It has a theater, like in the one photo, the house of Astulius, and the gladiator's house, plus a ton more that I didn't do. There's also an earthquake house that was there, but these are all the things. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, those are the bluffs that overlook the entire place because we were on the side of a mountain. So it was very windy. We got to see the sea just right there. But yeah. And then the next week we went to Panaia Tambika, or as many people reference it as Beacon Hill, at least for everybody who works with Dr. Gaber. But it's between Alhambra, where it's another place, it's right near the area. It's where my professor lives, basically, and Idalian, where she works and does her digs at. But it's called Beacon Hill because of a mirror experiment that they did, where basically they showed mirrors and they saw that when the two people, if one was in Alhambra and one was in Idalian, they would get like blasted by the light if they were standing on Beacon Hill. So that was like the whole thing. Then we also went to the terrace of the East Acropolis because the West Acropolis of Idalian was closed. So yeah, we had to hike up parts of hills that we probably shouldn't have been hiking up, but we did it. And then we also went to Ios Zomenos, which this is, as Dr. Haber kind of thinks, and a lot of people think, this was the place before her site. So people migrated from this site over to Idalian, because once this started going downhill, Idalian was created. So a lot of people are like, oh, this is probably what happened. On the left, that is a cave that a hermit created. It is now like a church little thing where you can go in and pray. It has a lot of icons and stuff, because there used to be like Byzantine icons in there, but literally the hermit, he was said to have healed people, so people would go there to get healed, basically. And then next week we went to Kirkatia, which this was also kind of on a hill, but this is a Neolithic site, and you know fully because of the fact that these circles that are there, those are the houses that they would have been in. Because as you can tell from the right-hand photo, those are reconstructions of the houses that were created. But a Neolithic village it was inhabited around 7,000 to 4,000 BCE. So very, very old, even older than the Chalcolith. And then we also went to the Larnaca Museum, which was just a district museum that showed off a lot of different stuff. Yeah, I don't have much to say about it. And then the Cary Archaeological Workshop, we did that the next week. Because we were staying at Cary, we went to this. And this was the day after we finished our internship. And we were at the Cyprus Bank and we were listening to 16 people speak about different archaeological stuff that they were doing. And then afterwards, they had a reception right across the street from Cary. So of course we also went and had like food and drinks and all that stuff. And that is a photo of what the sunset looked like. Obviously, it's better on the computer, but it was very pink and pretty. So I took a photo of that. And then of course we went to week 6. So this is where we started going a lot of places. This is also when the dig started. So Dr. Gerber had to also handle the dig. So we had to wake up at 6:30 in the morning for this. Well, earlier than 6:30 because I had to be there by 6:30 and it's a 20-minute drive away. But we went and did the West Acropolis water tower talk, which basically she talked about, well, especially to the excavators, what they were excavating and what it is. So on the left, that's a photo of me on the water tank and looking out over top of it because it's on a hill, basically. And then this one on the right is a blown up photo of kind of where they were digging. It's behind all of the dead cactuses, the line of dead cactuses that are there, because there's a plague that's going around for cactuses, so a lot of them are dying. Then like days later, we went to this monastery. These are both from Google, because we couldn't take photos in there. I put the robes in there because I had to wear one, because apparently I was too indecent, because I was showing too much knee. I was showing too much knee, you know.
Orthodox, Olivia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, so we couldn't take photos, but of course, I also had to wear a robe, so I was wearing very heavy blue robe in like 90-degree weather. It was fun. And then we went to the Lefkra Folk Art Museum the next day, which this is basically folk art is kind of showing how people lived. That's kind of the basics of it. I don't know what else to say about it, but that's the basics of it. But Lefkra is where things like silver, which is what I am wearing, and lace, which I have over there, is created. They're very famous for their silversmithing and lace work. So that's one of the big things that we did while there. Then we also went to Famagusta, which this is in the north, but we went with CVAR because we interned there, so they asked if we wanted to go. So we went. We saw a lot of churches that day. It was a Sunday, but we saw a lot of churches. Some of them not as in good shape as others. Obviously, on the right, that's a cathedral that was then turned into a mosque. So in half of them, we went to, we would have to like take our shoes off, or of course, if you were showing too much skin, then you had to like cover yourself up if you wanted to go in. But it was cool though to go in and also just see it because of course the architecture is exactly the same. It's just that usually they just have carpet then in there because you take your shoes off. That's about it. And also like a prayer room area for them. But overall, it was fun going there, but it was also very hot. Famagusta is near the sea. So even though it's 100-something in the middle of the island, it can get even hotter near the sea because the humidity is like how it is here. So it would be like 115 degrees plus 80% humidity. So it was fun. That day it did get up to like 115 with humidity, so that was fun. Then of course week 7, we went to the Limassol Castle, or what is known as the Cyprus Medieval Museum. It was just an old castle. This is where, if I'm correctly, this was where I don't remember their name. But the kings of the Lusignans, which were Frankish kings, so like medieval times, this is where they would have been crowned. They would have been crowned king of Cyprus, and then in Famagusta, they would be crowned king of Jerusalem and another one. I forget the other one. But they were crowned kings for 3 different countries at that time. But this is a weird place. It has weird architecture things on the right. That is, if you see like the large like archway type of thing that's like filled in with that. It used to be a big archway, but then they decided to fill it up and then have smaller archways. So that was throughout the entire thing where you would go into a room and you would see part of an archway that used to be there, but now it's covered up. So, you know, fun times. And then we also went to the Limassol Museum. I don't have much to say about this because this is also a district museum, other than the fact that all of the stuff that was in here really wasn't labeled. So you're just looking at something, you say, ah, that's a pot. I don't know. If like, especially, but of course, like we had Dr. Gaber, who is known for knowing pottery around all of Cyprus. So she told us about the stuff. But one of the things that they love to do is put eyes on pots. So,
A reason for that?
yeah. And then we also went to the Yeroskipu Folk Art Museum, which this was in a rich family's home. Basically, this is what rich was like in like the 1800s. But on the right, I am standing on top of the roof of their house because it is that hot in Cyprus that even in the like 1800s, 1700s, they would be sleeping on roofs because it's too hot out. And then during the winter, they would be sleeping inside because it's warmer inside than it is outside. So they also make food up here. So, you know, it was that hot. And then the next week we went to the Paphos or Kuklia local museum. So we walked through Paphos, which is Old Paphos, to get to the museum. And it's in an old, well, it used to be a Frankish like castle or something like that, but then kind of got destroyed and then it got remade by the Ottomans. So it's an Ottoman manor house, like now. Well, that's what it became. That's what most of it is. And then the thing on the right is what is known as a betel. It is a sacred stone. It is a Near Eastern tradition, so you find them mostly in Israel and places like that. But basically, it's kind of their way of worshiping their god, or whichever god they have. So, this is like the biggest one they found. They also found one at the site that my professor is digging at. So they found that, plus standing stones, which are the things that go with it, that also usually represent whatever deity that they do. But in here, it is the mother goddess for Cyprus and the master and mistress of animals, who are her like workers, basically. That's who they would worship back then. And then next day we did Amathos. This is the mountain that I climbed. I am on the left. This is me on the top of the mountain, like the hill, overlooking, I'm pretty sure that's Limassol. That's like in the background. But we had to climb up the mountain to get to the top. And then we had this big jug thing that apparently the other part of it, well, half of it is in the Louvre, because the French excavators got to this place first. So they took half of this because the other half is still at the site and you can still see it right next to this one. It is probably probably 6 feet tall or more, for just that. But yeah, so the French couldn't take it fully back because it was too heavy. But then we also went to the stadium and sanctuary of Apollo Hilates. So the stadium is on the left, and then the area that the sanctuary of Apollo Hilates is, like that site, is on the right. But these two actually connect to Kurion, which we went to the second week that we were there. It is a straight shot, like every other Roman thing. You go one direction, you will hit everything else. So you go one direction, and then you hit both the stadium and the sanctuary if you're coming from the Kurion entryway that they had back in the Roman times. But the sanctuary also had an older sanctuary there, that was a lot older. That was a sacred grove as well, for what is known as Adonis, who is the master of animals, is the name that they go by there. But because a lot of people who came to this place said it's Greek, they named a lot of things after Aphrodite or Adonis, or Apollo in this case, so. But then of course we went on to week 8. We didn't do as much this week. We went to Fikardu, which the entire site, it's a village. The entire village is a UNESCO, well, not a UNESCO, it is a ancient monument thing. So the Department of Antiquities, they protect this place because it is a part of their heritage, basically. So this entire place is a folk art museum, basically. You could look around and see, there's, I think Dr. Huber said 2 years ago, there was only 20 villagers living there anymore. So it might have gone down. But there are houses in ruins there. There are houses that have been rebuilt by the Department of Antiquities. This is the one on the right. The picture on the right is I guess you could call it the museum part of it because you could go into the house fully, and it's like fully like basically it's fully livable in there. But it has first floor. I am right now, when taking that photo, I am standing on the roof of another house because they used the roofs of houses to build on top of for as like a patio for the other houses. So that's how they built, but this is in the mountains. So and I hate to say that this was 90 degrees, and then I was like, oh, it's usually warmer down below than it is here. And then I looked at, and it was over 100 down in Nicosia. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to complain about 90 degrees. And then we went to a very small church called the Church of Lady Asinu. And the church, probably in total, is about the size or less than the size of this entire room right now. But it's a fully painted church. And these are actually very old painted churches. Even though it almost looks brand new, they've just kept it in shape basically. And some places you can actually see in the walls where they like, how do I explain it? Where like past idols that have been there, past like icons have been there, but they were just plastered over and then redone for a different person. But one of the biggest things is the picture on the right. This is the main temple. There's also like an annex, so like a separate area that goes into the main sanctuary. But at the end, where basically the Holy of Holies would have been, at the top, that is the mother goddess. Because even though it is like Greek Orthodox stuff like that, or anything like that, in Cyprus they still worshipped the mother goddess more than like God or Jesus or anything like that. Because they actually had photos of Jesus in here. Well, not photos, paintings of Jesus and stuff like that. But it would always be like, oh, like his mother is there holding him, stuff like that a lot of times. But yeah, so there's that on the side. Sadly, a lot of the photos have been flipped to the side, and I don't know why. But they also had Constantine and Helen, who were the ones who had Christianity, basically spread Christianity to most of the world, type of thing. So they also have them in there, which that's also common in other painted churches that we saw, which usually has Constantine and Helen, especially Helen, because she's the one who mostly went around and did the entire thing. Then we also went to the Troodos Botanical Garden. So this is the mountains. This is the biggest mountain range in Cyprus, the Troodos. And so we went to botanical gardens there, which were made basically to conserve the environment. Because sadly, in like, I think the 60s or something like that, they were doing asbestos mining around this area. So you can still kind of see it on some of the photos that I have where the asbestos mine was mostly at, but it used to be a pure white mountain because of the mining that was there. And then now it's starting to become green again, but so they're just trying to conserve the nature that's still there. Because we also went to the Troodos Geopark. So of course they have a mine there because, one of the biggest things that's from Cyprus is copper. Fun fact, Cu on the periodic table, Kupros. It is named after the island where it came from. So that's why it's named that on the periodic table, mostly because copper, But yeah, so they had seismic things because, of course, this is also an earthquake-heavy place. But I was able to see different things. I got distracted by the seismic thing, where I was just standing there and I was looking at different places in North America that had like tremors basically, and I saw like that day like had what was it? That day in like California and up in like Alaska, Canada area, there was like a 5 or 6.0 earthquake that happened like right off the coast. I was like, okay. But so I got distracted by that, but overall it kind of just gives the history of the island and also the history of the Troodos, because the first thing to come up from the sea was the Troodos, because that's how it was formed. So we learned the whole formation process, geology basically, of the entire mountain range, and why certain like metals and like minerals and stuff are only in certain places, stuff like that. Then we also went to the monastery of St. John Lampadistes. So this is actually a working monastery now. It used to not be. It kind of went into ruins for a while, but on the left, that is a picture of some of the monastery, because it is right across from a mountain village. So you just cross the bridge and go there, but the monastery was where like the schoolhouse was and like everything like that for the kids, kind of basic things. But also I could not take pictures in the church because we were not allowed to take pictures in the church, but it was a painted church. And all that stuff. But one of the reasons why a lot of the churches around don't want pictures being taken is because, especially in the past, a lot of the icons have been defaced. So even in this church, there has been icons that have been defaced, like the eyes have been like scratched off, stuff like that. So usually they do it just basically for the sake of like, we want to keep this how it is and we don't want people ruining it, type of thing. So yeah. And then of course it was right over like a river creek thing. So we also went down to the creek and we were like, wow. But yeah, it's also to the side. I don't know why, but there was
we were tree climbing.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so we did that. And then this was the biggest one. This was the one I was most excited for because I did a presentation on this exact place in ninth grade for my first year seminar. This is Nea Paphos, so New Paphos. This is the place that all the tourists go, for good reason, but this is where all of them go to. These are the mosaics, some of them. There's a lot of houses that are there that have mosaics. So the one on the right is the House of Theseus's mosaic, named because this mosaic is about Theseus and the labyrinth and him slaying the Minotaur in the labyrinth. So all of the circular things on the outside, all those patterns, are to imitate the labyrinth. So that's the whole thing. And then on the left, there's on the top left one, it's like the House of Aeon is the name of it, which had to do because the god Aeon, who I think is like the god of time or something like that in Greek mythology, who's there. And then on the bottom, like left for that, that is in the House of Dionysus, which is probably one of the most famous houses there. But it obviously named because Dionysus is found in the mosaics there. But fun fact, the House of Theseus, that was the Roman proconsul's house. This is just one room. There are probably like 100 more rooms in that entire house. Roman proconsul, this is where Paul would have went in Paphos when he came to Cyprus. Because he only went to two places, Salamis, which we weren't able to go to because it's in the north. Dr. Gabriel would have said that we would have went there, if not for it's very hard to get over to the north with a car, because you can't take a rental over. And then also Paphos. So this was the Roman proconsul's house that Paul would have went to. So yeah. And then we also went to Tomb of the Kings, which is also a very famous place. Even though it's named Tomb of the Kings, it's not for kings. These are families. But they are all underground chambers that basically go to this. A lot of them have the atrium like how it is on the right, where there's columns in the center, and then spreading out there are chambers that would go to where the burials would be for the family. So then we went to the Paphos District Museum. Don't have much to say about this either, because it's just a district museum, so we saw all the stuff from around the area, but that's about it. And then we also went to Paphos Castle, which this is another one that we went to. So we went there. I don't it was a Frankish castle, and it was likely built at the end of the 14th century, but then was like remade, rebuilt, stuff like that. But yeah, that's the castle on the left, and then us on the right at the top of it. And then of course week 9, this was the last week that we really did a lot of stuff. So this was excavation week that we went and actually excavated stuff. So this is the excavation site. It's not the best photos because I kind of was just like, oh, I don't want to go out into the sun. But we would be there. We would a lot of times, especially my group, the 4 of us that were there, we went and just did like basically cleaning off topsoil, stuff like that, to get ready for that, because like most of the excavators were like done with certain stuff, so we got to do like the basics of what an archaeologist would do. These are all of these boxes have artifacts in them. These are just some of them that they have from just the site, but these are what is known as legacy data, so stuff that was dug up in the past that they are now going through because they need to put it in a database, because everything is on paper and they don't want everything to like go up in flames if anything would happen, because the whole thing of archaeology is it's systematic destruction. So yeah. And then this is sideways as well, but we also had to wash the pottery that we found in the ground, and then we had to read the pottery. So that's Dr. Gaber reading the pottery, because she would go and then she would like just start spouting off the names. I have an example of kind of what we had to look off of, because we had to, for each and every single one, because it could be like stuff like, oh, one plain white, including one rim, one base, one, stuff like that. And then we also had to like put stars if they were gonna register it or not. It's a whole process. I got scared when she first did it with me because she did not go slow, and that was the first time I ever did it. But yeah, so we also had to do that a lot of the days that we would be there. Oh, I guess it's not gonna show that. But that one was, if I remember correctly, it was the 3D modeling that we were doing. So I actually have photos of it on the thing, but I guess it didn't want to show that one. But yeah, 3D modeling of a piece of pottery that they found and then reconstructed in 2017. So we did that, and then Andrew, who was the person who did a lot of the tech stuff, he then took the pictures, like hundreds of photos that we took, and then put it into a system, and then created a 3D model of what we took. So that's one of the things. We went to beaches. These also aren't going to show, I guess, but we went to Kurion Beach, which was near the bluffs, where I found some stuff. I found a Roman roof tile on the beach. I also found quartz on the beach. I also found a rock that's blue that's over there. That's from the Troodos. So it came down from the mountains somehow, because the only blue rocks that you can find are in the mountains, like high up in the mountains. And then we also went to, we went to Mackenzie Beach, which was in Larnaca, where you could, if planes were coming in for the airport, you would see them flying over the beach. So there's that. Governor's Beach, which I don't know how to explain Governor's Beach, but it was like you could go onto like white, like limestone, I think it was, and like go from there, different areas, stuff like that. And then we also went to Aphrodite's Rock, which was it's a big rock at a beach that basically is like the place where Aphrodite is supposed to have come up from the sea foam and been born. So yeah, there's that. And then the meze was the last day that we were there. So this was a big buffet type of meal where the entire table, which is probably as long as one of the normal long tables here, got completely full of plates of food because that's how it was. But we did that the last night as kind of like a send-off meal. Dr. Gaber, there it is. It actually has the photo. But yeah, so this is just some of the plates. There's a lot more of them because we had like 10 different appetizers, like 5 different main course meal types of things, and then like a couple like after meal types of things, and then we also had dessert, which was like 3 different things of that. So it was fun, but yeah, that's what we did. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
What was your favorite part?
I don't know. I don't know. Probably it was, even though it was super hot, it was probably very fun seeing like Neapothos, because I literally I saw the photos before and I was able to actually see it in real life instead. But I kind of like just any place we went to because it was cool to see everything, and then we also got to basically be immersed in the culture and also get to meet other people. I loved staying at Carrie because we got to meet people from all over. We had, I forget, I think she was from Norway. There's one person from Norway, I believe. There's some people from the Middle East area. Some people from Germany, Italy, Scotland, stuff like that. So we got to meet all different kinds of people and just have fun together, get to know each other just randomly, see each other, say, oh, hi, stuff like that. But yeah. Does anybody else have any questions?
Did you get to do any swimming in the ocean?
Yes, that's where the beaches come in, but obviously the beach, yeah. But yeah, it was actually different than how it is here because it's the Mediterranean Sea. Most of the beaches, if not, I think all the beaches for the most part, are pretty shallow. I could walk in 20 feet and still be up to my waist.
Yeah.
So, and for the most part, most places didn't really have waves at all. So it was just kind of calm waters. You could just do whatever you want in it. So, yeah. Yeah.
You gonna tell them about the bathroom thing that I thought was so interesting?
Which thing?
The fact that you can't flush.
Oh, yeah. No toilet paper in the toilets, guys. You can't do that. But that's also a European thing, though. So if you go over to Europe, be prepared.
Yeah.
Don't flush toilet paper down the toilet. You have to put it in a trash can next to it. That is why most European airports smell terrible a lot of times, because all of basically the waste goes there. Because the pipes cannot handle, basically. They will get clogged up immediately if you put in that stuff, so.
We have a toilet at my dad's house, it's that
But yeah. Sound dirty. So yeah, so that's fun. I also enjoy showering here now because the water here wasn't desalinated. So I got welts. Whenever I showered, I would get welts. So that was fun. So, from the shower water, it wasn't desalinated, so all the salt and stuff that would be on it would hit your body. So you would get welts. So I still have little bumps around areas still that I'm healing from, but yeah, you can also get those sometimes.
You're still stuck on it.
But yeah,
Did you have to get a lot of shots to go over there?
I didn't have to get any because
Not any?
because it's kind of just as long as you have your basic level of shots, you're pretty set, because it's a European, it's in the EU, so for the most part it's just kind of oh, just watch out for that.
If we would've checked, they have a website that you have to check before you go overseas, and if it says there's an outbreak, then yeah, she would've had to hurry up and get the immunization.
Oh, okay.
But immunizations are fine as long as you're immunized, But yeah, they would have told her if there was some kind of outbreak, and then she would have had to hurry up and get one.
Well, yeah, I know one thing was the fact that a lot of us had to kind of be careful in the last like 2 or 3 weeks, because apparently in parts of Cyprus, COVID was coming back. So gladly, none of us got it, but we were all like, what? When the pharmacist that Dr. Gaber knew like told us that, we're like, what? And she's like, okay guys, we're gonna have to take temperatures every week.
Tell them the percentage of time they actually have rain. You didn't mention that at all.
I don't remember the percentage,
Well, you
but I
said
was
you
only
very
there.
rarely see rain.
I was there for 9 weeks, and there was only one major rainstorm, and that was right at the end in July, in Dali, where it was like 30 minutes straight of rain. Cause once it rains, so, yeah, it was, I didn't see any before, what would it have been? It was that Wednesday, right, before first week, so.
You messed up your gig.
Yeah, it was the last couple of days of the dig and it messed it up, so we couldn't really finish the dig because the rain came and it kind of washed everything, so, you know, yeah. Does anybody else have any questions?
Was there something that you missed that you wish you could have done if you go back? Were you disappointed about any part of it?
I wasn't fully disappointed about a lot of things, but I definitely would wanna go more into the north, probably, cause one of the reasons why we didn't go into the north as much, cause we would have went like multiple times, more than just like 2 different times, was because of the fact that, because the dig was happening, there was a lot of bad things that just kept happening over and over and over again with the dig. So Dr. Amber would have to work on that, and then she'd be like, okay guys, we can't go do a field trip today, because of that. So it'd be stuff like that, or like we would be helping the dig because something happened, you know, stuff like that. So it was definitely like, we would have went to more places if the dig didn't have such a bad start, because all of us were like, man, why does everything keep happening? Because it was all in like the first week that just everything kept happening, so.
So you didn't go to the north because of transportation or time or?
So it was kind of both, because obviously, like we went to Famagusta, which is in the north, but we went through Sivar, which was where I was interning. But one of the weird things about, because it's like technically like 2 separate places and you have to go through like border check basically every single time, you can't take a rented vehicle over the border if you don't have a new insurance, because you have to buy a brand new insurance just to go over to the north. So it's like, it's basically like you would have to get a brand new rented car on the north side if you wanted to go over, because we were using a rented car at that time. So it would have been like us having to like pay hundreds of dollars just to go over for like 1 day, you know, type of thing. So, but like if you have your actual car, you're fine. So it's basically just rentals is just a weird subset type of thing. It's like the same thing of how if you come in through the north, you can't work in the south. Like, because there is an airport in the north, but if you go there, you can't go to the south type of thing. Okay. Because of that.
Okay, would you lead us in prayer?
Thank you, Father, for this day that you brought us together. We're grateful that Olivia had such a safe and interesting and time to learn while she was in Cyprus. We thank you for the insight that it gives us and comparison with places of biblical characters who were there. Thank you for this time to appreciate her slides, and we just pray that you will use all of this to help her as she continues with her studies. Thank you for Dr. Karita Brown, who's coming today and asks for your grace for her as she brings our message. Thank you for loving us. In Jesus' name we pray.
Ouch.